Well, I decided to make another fire pit this morning. The other one I'd built because I was always cooking at night. And I had never made anything in the morning. But now that I need to cook in the morning, it's super hot out in the sun. So, we're gonna sit close, close to the fire. Cook here. I mean, maybe I didn't space this out properly. It should have been 5 feet that way. A few more feet that way. Might have to rebuild this in the morning. Today I want to talk about what I'm worried about, what I'm scared about in this whole situation. For those of you that have been following the Arcane Bear for a while now, you know that I'm not a huge fan of governments or regulations. I think every time someone falls down, the question shouldn't be, oh, who can we regulate and sue to fix this problem? It should be, why was that person not looking where they were going? You know, it's really easy to regulate someone to say stop at a stop sign. But we know you're less likely to die from jaywalking because you're more conscious when you're crossing the street than if you're just walking across a crosswalk blindly, assuming that the person is going to stop and follow those rules. For any of you that have lived in China or Asia, parts of the world where the driving rules and regulations are almost non-existent, there's a freedom to understanding that we are both potentially going to hurt one another if we don't pay attention, so that what we end up doing is driving carefully instead of just driving to follow regulations. Oh, if it's a green light, I go, and nobody stops to check the other side, and before you know it, someone gets hit. In situations like this, what bothers me is that we know a lot of people aren't paying attention to how severe a situation like this is. And what I'm worried about, what I'm scared of, is that the governments around the world use this as a situation to not just take our rights away, because we should be quarantining, we should be taking time to social distance, we should have been doing that from the get-go. But for all those kids out there, all those younger generations who are still going out partying, who are still going out traveling, they put others at risk. And if no one listens in these times of dire need to listen, because we're very likely going to overwhelm our hospital system here, then what will they do to make up for that mistake? Are they going to take our rights away? Are they going to change the laws so that you have to listen? You have to get mandatory vaccines? The governments have almost always used these as a time to take our rights away. You know, and that's what we don't want. I think this is a time, instead of going to big government, people need to be smart enough to make these decisions on their own. They need to realize that the greater good is and has always been in a survival of each other. We didn't make it this far because of one brilliant person in the community. We've made it this far through generations because so many brilliant people in the community are willing to work together and for one another. You know, the idea of social distancing, oh, it's my parties, I've lost my soccer balls. There's other people's lives that are at risk here. And if we do our part as individuals for the group, there's no need for government. There's no need for rules and regulations. But it looks like now that people aren't listening to what they've asked, which is to social distance, to stay at home, they're likely going to make it illegal. They're going to fine you. I was on a phone call with a friend of mine last night who's in France and said that he has to basically write himself a note as if he were going to the bathroom in kindergarten. But he has to write the intention of what he's going to do while he's out during these times of lockdown, so that if he gets stopped, he has that pre-written intention to show, hey, this is what I'm doing. And then from there, if they decide that what your intention is not valid, they can fine you. That's the stuff I'm worried about. I think we have always been a little bit too lackadaisical with our own individual responsibility for the betterment of everyone. And it's a really thin line. I think one of the reasons why we always end up with governments is because we don't often take personal responsibility out of the gate. And you know, look, I hate things like the SEC. I think if you want to make a dumb investment and you want to lose money, go ahead. That's fine. I think that's totally acceptable. I think that's how you learn. I think you learn by touching the fire and realizing it's hot, not regulating against the companies that make things that say, hey, you don't touch if hot, right? Don't regulate against stupidity, because you'll never win. All you'll do is create a society whose bent is always on expecting someone else to take care of them. And although our societies are designed for us to take care of each other, these rules and regulations always get in the way. So I'm worried that after all this comes sweeping new regulations, just like the Patriot Act from 9/11 and other times when we've had war-like scenarios. This is a very interesting one because it's requiring people stay home and not go to work. It's like a forced trial of socialism. Like, hey, we're going to cover your electrical bills. We're going to cover your food for a month. Just stay home and watch Netflix, play on Facebook. And really, they should have been paying you to do that all along anyways. The only reason companies like Facebook have any value is because you use it. Right? A lot of these big companies that have made so much money, they should be sending you monthly checks. I've said that for a long time, not out of the basis of socialism, but out of the basis of the fact that you're where they make money from. They should consider you an employee. And then if they did that, you're more likely and incentivized to create better content, just like on YouTube here. It's not a huge amount. I mean, we only make maybe a few $100 off advertisements from this channel. But that little bit makes a big difference in a lot of people's lives. And if they were to, have not a subsidized income, it would help them be more creative, potentially try more of the things that they're interested in doing, from drawing, playing music, reading books, singing, all these endeavors that we should be focusing on, which is what you wanted to do before you realized you had to make money for a living. I've always enjoyed that quote. I don't remember who said it, but it says, I think it was Buckminster Fuller actually, who said we should go back to what we were interested in before we had to make a living. I hope that this is an artisanal renaissance for ideas, from science, mathematics. When I built the fireplace this morning, I didn't realize all the smoke was going straight in my face that way. I have to sit off the edge here. Yeah, a big part of me is looking forward to a renaissance. People shouldn't be growing grass on their front lawn. I've got ayahuasca growing beside me. This is the Banisteriopsis vine. This is a monoamino oxidase inhibitor. This is one of the 2 sacred plants that you mix together in the ayahuasca brew. She's a beautiful vine. I think a relationship with nature in each of our own front yards, a strong relationship with where we get each of the things that we use in our day-to-day life, from the food that we eat to the products that we use. Part of globalization means that a lot of the things that you like to buy don't come from anyone that you know. They come from someone else. They're produced overseas by thousands of different hands. And it's not been the most productive. And I think we're going to start to see the real big downfalls of that over the next few months, years. Most of the antibiotics or base prescriptions, those all come from China or India. If they stop producing those and sending them to the countries that we live in, there's a lot of critical care supplies that just won't make it. And that's one of the big problems here, is that if the government has to come in and start regulating these things, if we go down the wrong road, I'm worried that our society won't have the freedoms that it deserves anymore. I'm really hoping to some degree that we go back to a much smaller municipal government style, that we can travel more freely without passports. I think we're always going to run into the difficulty of how we manage the people that are doing bad in the world. But I don't think that there's an easy answer to it. Right now, no one's really accountable. Like, somehow George Bush isn't accountable for the fake fucking wars that the United States country went into. It's just the American people that are left holding the bag. If we don't make those accountable for especially the monstrous basically war crimes on humanity, as far as I can tell. I'm no lawyer, so I wouldn't be able to tell you. We let them get away with that, yet we, on the corner of these situations, we let them regulate us and take our freedoms away. Oh, now we're gonna have to pat you down. We have to keep checking, making more rules and regulations. Before you know it, you might have little RFID chips in your wrist that say if you're not vaccinated, you can't travel or you can't buy and sell. And that's what bothers me about situations like this. I'm excited. Part of me is very excited about a change in our storyline. But I'm worried that a lot of people don't know better. They're just going to go back to the government. I see people making posts. They're so excited. Oh, look, free income and free water and free healthcare. They could have done that the whole time. They're basically doing dry runs on socialism and everybody's eating it up. All the younger generations are eating it up. Like, oh yeah, this is what we should do. And now because all the young kids are the ones that aren't listening often to these ideas of, hey, if we tell you to stay home, guys, and not for hashtag stay the fuck home, it's not so that you are safe. All the younger generations are like, this game of roulette for them is really easy. It's for their grandparents. It's for their parents. It's for other people in the society that you're trying to keep safe right now. The social distancing, although it affects all of us, it's designed to slow things down so we don't overwhelm and possibly crush our healthcare systems. You know, we've been saying that from the very beginning. The fact that people didn't understand that and still don't recognize that is what worries me, because then that's when the governments come in and say, hey, we asked you politely, you didn't listen, now here are the rules and here are the laws. You want your $1,000 a month and you don't follow the rules, we're going to, just cut you off from the system. You know, the Bible warned about that type of stuff. I mean, part of me assumes that the prophecy will just be right, that we'll just head right into this system that control and manipulate the human species, because people don't know better. They don't realize how powerful they are as individuals to make changes during these times. So instead, they just do whatever they want. And then there's rules and regulations. I hope we don't get to that point. And if we do, please just be aware of that. Like, understand the importance of your freedom, right? We have the ability to travel more, had the ability to travel more freely than ever. Now the countries are closing their borders. It's my hope, again, that this type of municipal or nationalized inward focus brings a sense of necessity to create things within their own borders, to be more localized, to buy things from your neighbor, to produce something that's beneficial that you can sell to your community, and a total collapse of some of the big systemic problems that we have. You know, the bigger they are, the harder they fall. And that's a great quote for a reason. You can drop a mouse from the top of my balcony and it will be fine because of its distance to weight relationship. It's a bit more anti-fragile during that fall. Whereas if I throw a human off the side of my house, I'm going to break that. I'm going to break that human, at least a few parts of them. It's a big fall, but the mouse will barely notice. Same with the cat. My dog's like 4 to 8 times bigger than the cat. The dog would definitely get some pain from this, right? So we have to remember that the bigger we allow things to grow, when they fall, they don't need very far to fall to make a huge disruption in the way they normally function. So I hope that everyone understands the risks that we have right now. It's up to each of us to take responsibility to stay home, to self-quarantine, so that we don't overwhelm our hospital systems. Because right now, you might normally be able to go to the hospital for, say, like a broken leg and your bone's sticking out of your leg because you were silly and you were going on a bike ride, and it's not that big of a deal. But if our hospital systems are overwhelmed, you're probably going to die from your fucking broken leg, right? And we go back to the 1800s where you might die from a toothache, right? We've been able to keep a lot more people alive for a hell of a lot longer. Well, mathematically that might not be true. We keep a lot of the younger people alive that we wouldn't be able to. The people that have already made it over 30 are more likely to make it to 60 and 80 as well, but it's the younger people who break the legs and have their wisdom teeth come in when they're 20 and get infections during that process. Those are the people that we've been saving with the modern medical care system. And if it breaks down because we don't stay home, it's not going to bode well for any of us. And the biggest worry there isn't just that you might not be able to get critical hospital care, is that during this process, the government will come in with sweeping regulations to take away your freedoms. Anyways, guys, That's this morning's coffee. A bunch of you are asking me to take you around the property and show you around, so the next videos will do that. I like this morning coffee routine by the fire. I save propane this way. It feels nice, like this early connection with nature. So we'll just sit on that one. Remember to give us those thumbs up if you like this content, ladies and gentlemen. Leave your thoughts, your comments, your questions below. Do you like the new content? For all the private Bear Den members, for charting Bitcoin, we did jump back up to 6 grand. I will be doing more private live streams with the group, and I will be posting all my updates as I start trading again. I'm pretty much here ready to be locked down for 3 to 6 months. I've got food, firewood, extra propane, over 10,000 liters of water, so I don't need to go anywhere. So we're here. So I'm gonna start doing all that work back with you guys in the evening. Thank you for all the support. I really appreciate the private bear group. You guys are amazing. We had a great Zoom call last night. A bunch of you dropped in, shared where you were in the world, the things that you're going through. I really appreciate that. It's nice to have that community. But I'm gonna leave the vlogs and a lot of the video content on the YouTube channel geared toward more of this survival ideas. We've had some recommendations, like, you know, what to do with your time while in quarantine, how to start fires with no matches, this kind of stuff. So I think we're going to get into a bit more of the survival vlogs, how to maybe even catch some food, or at least recognize different medicinal plants out here in the jungle, like this beautiful ayahuasca vine that's growing beside me. Very, very powerful purging plant. So thank you guys. I really appreciate all your support. I'm actually loving this. I'm having a great time. This forced, well, not so forced. I'm doing it on purpose. I started mostly self-quarantining on purpose because I think it's the right thing to do. I think it's the responsible, mature, intellectual thing to do. Is just not go out as often as possible, because no matter what happens here, if we overwhelm our hospital systems, we're going to be fucked. And at even worst case scenario, if we do that and we don't listen, the governments are going to come in and they're going to make it against the law to not listen to them and not do these things which are to some degree morally responsible. So keep it at that. I'm just going to sit here. Actually, I'm going to read a quote for you guys as well. We'll end it off with that, and I'm just going to enjoy the fire, and you guys can enjoy the sounds of this as well. Rather than love, more than money, and more than fame, give me truth. And in this particular case, let's keep our freedoms.